My parents expected me to become my disabled sister's caregiver after I gave up my entire childhood for her. They never said it like that at first. They didn't sit me down and explain it in clear words. It was just something that slowly wrapped around my life, like a quiet rule that everyone followed except me. A rule I didn't agree to, but somehow ended up living by. I grew up in a small house that always felt crowded, even when there were only four of us. My mom, my dad, my older sister Lily, and me. Lily was born with special needs. From the time I can remember, everything in our house revolved around her. Her routines, her moods, her appointments, her safety. I don't say that with anger. Back then, it just felt normal. That's how my world worked. When I was little, I thought every family lived like this. I thought every kid learned early how to stay quiet when things got tense, how to be the easy one, how to not ask for too much. My parents used to smile at me and say, "You're so mature for your age." I wore that like a badge, not realizing it was just another way of saying, "We need you to need less." Lily needed help with almost everything. Getting dressed, eating, understanding the world around her. Some days she was sweet and calm. Other days she screamed until her voice cracked, hitting herself or the walls, and my parents would rush to her side while I stood frozen in the hallway, holding my breath. I learned early that my feelings came second, maybe third, maybe last. As I got older, the responsibility started creeping in. At first, it was small things. Can you watch Lily while I shower? Can you help her with dinner? Can you stay home tonight? She's having a hard day. These weren't requests that felt optional. They were said with tired eyes and heavy sighs, the kind that made you feel guilty even thinking about saying no. By middle school, I was helping her get ready in the mornings. By high school, I was the built-in babysitter. My friends stopped asking me to hang out because the answer was always the same. I can't, I have to be home. Teachers praised me for being responsible. Adults told my parents how lucky they were to have me. No one asked if I was okay with any of it. I remember one night very clearly. I was 16. It was prom season. Not even my prom, just a school dance. I had bought a cheap dress with my own money. I stood in front of the mirror, trying to feel like a normal teenager. My mom knocked on the door and told me Lily was overwhelmed and they needed me to stay home. I didn't argue. I just hung the dress back in the closet. That was the moment something inside me went quiet. College was never really discussed as something for me, not seriously. When I brought it up, my parents would exchange looks. My mom would say things like, "We'll see," or "That might be hard with Lily," or "You know she depends on you." My dad would nod silently. I started choosing schools close to home without even realizing why. I told myself it was practical. Deep down, I knew it was expected. After graduation, I didn't move out. I stayed. Lily's needs were increasing as she got older. My parents were getting tired. They leaned on me more, not less. I handled appointments, medications, meltdowns, and meals. When relatives visited, they praised my parents for their strength. They told me I was such a good sibling. No one asked what I wanted my life to look like. The first time the truth slipped out was during an argument. I was in my early 20s, exhausted, burned out. I had asked if I could take a weekend trip with friends. Just 2 days. My mom started crying. My dad got angry. And then he said it. "What do you think will happen to Lily when we're gone?" The room went silent. My stomach dropped. "That's not what I meant," I said. "I just wanted a break." My mom wiped her face and said softly, "You know you're her future. You always have been." That sentence hit harder than any shout ever could. My future wasn't mine. It was already decided, already assigned, without my consent. After that, everything changed. I started noticing the assumptions. The way my parents talked about, "When Lily lives with you someday." The way they brushed off conversations about group homes or outside support. The way they acted like my life was just an extension of theirs, except with Lily permanently attached. I tried to talk to them calmly. I said I loved my sister. I said I would always care about her. But I also said I wanted my own life, my own dreams, my own space. They looked at me like I had betrayed them. Like I was being selfish. My dad asked, "So you're just going to abandon your family?" That word stuck with me. Abandon. I didn't leave right away. Guilt is powerful. It kept me there longer than I want to admit. But something had already cracked. I started imagining a different life, one where I wasn't constantly on call, one where my choices didn't come with conditions, one where I could breathe. The breaking point came on a random Tuesday. Nothing dramatic, just a long day. Lily had a meltdown that lasted hours. My mom snapped at me for not doing something the right way. My dad went to bed early without saying goodnight. I sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the sink full of dishes, and I realized I felt invisible in my own life. That night, I applied for a job in another city. I didn't tell anyone. When I got the offer weeks later, my hands were shaking. I was terrified, but I was also relieved in a way I had never felt before. Telling my parents was one of the hardest conversations of my life. My mom cried. My dad accused me of being heartless. They asked how I could do this to them. To Lily, they reminded me of everything they had sacrificed. They never once asked how much I had given up. I moved out anyway. The guilt followed me. Every missed call, every message about how hard things were without me, I carried it like a weight on my chest. But slowly, something else started growing too. Peace, space, a sense of self I had never been allowed to have. I still love my sister. That never changed. But love should not mean losing yourself completely. I learned that too late, but I learned it. And this is only the beginning of what happened next. After I moved out, my parents didn't stop calling. At first, it was every day, sometimes more than once a day. My mom would leave long voicemails about how Lily wasn't sleeping, how she was refusing to eat, how everything felt harder without me there. My dad's messages were shorter, colder. He'd ask when I was coming home, not if. Like this move was temporary, a phase I'd grow out of. I tried to help from a distance. I really did. I researched programs. I sent links. I suggested respite care, adult day programs, support workers. Every suggestion was met with resistance. My parents said strangers wouldn't understand Lily. They said no one could take care of her like family. And every time they said family, I knew they meant me. The hardest part wasn't the anger. It was the disappointment. The way my mom's voice sounded smaller every time we talked. The way she'd say, "I just thought you'd be here." Like it was a fact we had both known forever. I'd hang up the phone and stare at the wall, feeling like I had done something unforgivable just by choosing myself. Living on my own felt strange at first. Too quiet, too empty. I wasn't used to having uninterrupted time. I wasn't used to deciding what to eat without considering someone else's needs. I wasn't used to sleeping through the night. Sometimes I'd wake up in a panic, thinking I had forgotten something important. It took weeks before my body realized I was safe. I made friends at work, real friends. People who asked me questions about myself and waited for the answers. People who didn't look past me. The first time someone invited me out and I didn't have to explain why I couldn't go, I almost cried in the bathroom. That was how low the bar had been set for my happiness. But guilt doesn't disappear just because your life improves. It gets quieter, but it lingers. Every holiday was tense. Every visit home felt like stepping back into a version of myself I was trying to outgrow. My parents would act polite, but there was always an edge. Like they were waiting for me to apologize or come to my senses. One evening, about a year after I moved out, my mom called me late. Her voice was shaking. She said my dad had collapsed from exhaustion. He wasn't seriously hurt, but it scared them. For a moment, everything inside me screamed to run back, to pack my bags and fix it all, to take my place again. Instead, I took a deep breath and said something that felt impossible. I said, "You need more help than I can give." There was silence on the line. Then my mom said, "We thought you were the help." That sentence hurt more than anything else she had ever said. Because it confirmed what I had always feared. I was never seen as a daughter with her own life. I was seen as a plan, a backup, a solution. This time though, I didn't back down. I told her I loved them. I told her I loved Lily. But I also told her I couldn't be the only answer anymore. I said it wasn't sustainable. I said it wasn't fair. My voice shook, but I didn't stop talking. Weeks passed, then months, something shifted. Slowly, reluctantly, my parents started accepting outside help. It wasn't smooth. There were setbacks, complaints, tears, but Lily began spending time in a day program. A support worker started coming a few hours a week. My parents looked older, but also a little less trapped. Our relationship didn't magically heal. There were still moments of blame, still comments that cut deep, but there were also moments of honesty. My mom admitted she had been scared of the future and clung to the one thing she thought she could control. Me. My dad admitted he didn't know how to imagine a life where Lily wasn't always under our roof. I started therapy. That's where I finally learned a word for what I had lived through. Parentification. Being forced into an adult role too early. Being responsible for things that were never supposed to be mine to carry alone. Hearing that didn't erase the past, but it gave it shape. It gave me permission to stop blaming myself. I still struggle with boundaries. I still feel a pull to fix things that aren't mine to fix. But now I notice it. Now I pause. Now I remind myself that love doesn't mean erasing yourself. Family doesn't mean surrendering your entire future. Lily is older now. She's calmer in some ways, more challenging in others. I visit her. I spend time with her. I laugh with her. I love her as her sibling, not her caretaker. That difference matters more than people realize. My parents still don't fully understand my choice. Maybe they never will. But they've stopped expecting me to come back and take over. That, in itself, feels like a small miracle. Sometimes I think about the version of me who hung that prom dress back in the closet. The one who learned early that being good meant being quiet and useful. I wish I could tell them this. That their life belongs to them. That it's okay to want more. That choosing yourself doesn't make you a bad person. If you're listening to this and you feel that familiar weight, like your life was decided without your permission, I want you to know something. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to change the script. You're allowed to live a life that includes love without being consumed by it. I didn't give up on everything. I gave up being invisible. And that choice saved me. If this story hits close to home, don't keep it to yourself. Hit like so more people who feel trapped like this can find it. Subscribe if you want real stories that say the things families don't say out loud. And if you've ever been expected to give up your whole life for someone else, tell your story in the comments. But you're not selfish, you're not alone.